You got to give the people the power. More power to the people. You got to give the people the power. 197. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ear to the Ground 197. This is a very special edition. That is why we're on Monday at 2 o'clock, because I have somebody very important, very special in our studio. And if you don't recognize, I'm going to introduce him anyway, Mr. Harper.
Hey, Ear to the Ground. I love it.
Yeah, Ear to the Ground 197. So,
Ear to the Ground 197.
Yeah, the 197 is, just in case you didn't know, this where we're at is zip code 48197.
I so know that.
And so, Ear to the Ground, when the Native Americans were hunting buffalo, and also when they're looking out for the cavalry, they would put their ear to the ground. And also one of the things that they would do also, Brother Harper, is that when the train was coming to, the locomotive was, just coming through, they would put their ear on the railroad tracks, and they could tell the distance of the train, and by the ear to the ground, they could tell the distance of the buffalo.
Wow.
So that's how I came with Ear to the Ground 197, because my motto on the show is Ypsilanti first.
Yes.
I believe in Ypsilanti first. I believe in my community first. I believe in the community I live in is called the South Side of Ypsilanti, or better known as the South Side of Ypsilanti. And I believe that if I better my community first, I believe that my city will get better. I believe that my county will get better. I believe that our state will get better. I believe that the United States of America will get better. I believe that the world will get better. I believe that the universe will get better.
Completely
but I believe
agree.
that it all begins with us first.
And
so that's why
absolutely.
That's why I use the phrase when I say to our viewers when they come in, I ask them to type into the comment box, why one? Because I believe in Ypsilanti first. So that's what the Ear to the Ground 197, that's my philosophy is on this particular show, Ear to the Ground 197. And we just want to thank you for taking the time to come out, We met, good brother, at the Johnny Lawrence Jazz Concert Series.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and so with that, we had the Battle of the Saxes. Did you have the opportunity to see at the end of the show, the finale?
I didn't see the Battle of the Saxes.
Okay,
no.
it was at the end of the show, and it was very good. So
Oh, man.
I'm going to give you the honor of announcing the winner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Of the Battle of the Saxophones. And so we had Yancey, brother by the name of Lord Yancey.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Don White.
Don White.
Dwayne Parham.
And Daryl Beebe.
Daryl Beebe.
So at the end of it,
that's
they
a
had
lot of talent.
Yeah, it was a lot of talent. And man, you should have seen it. It was.
And how did they judge the winner? Was it an expert panel or by applause?
Well, what they did was our one of our administrators, Mr. Brian Jones, what he did was he did his online survey. And so one of the winners won by 41.6%. Excuse me, the first place winner had 41.6% of the vote.
Whoa.
Second place winner had 43.9. Excuse me, back up.
I was going to say, that's more than 41.
Yeah, 43 was our first place.
Okay.
41 was our second place.
Oh.
And then our third place were tie. Each one of them had 7.32% of the vote.
Okay.
So I don't know how this brother did this analytical data.
Yeah.
Data and did all this stuff.
That's very close.
It was very close.
At the top.
But here.
And the bottom.
But
But to me, you have 4 performers.
Yes, sir.
Who have talent. They get on stage at an event like that. They're all winners because they're giving their talent to people. The love in that space was so beautiful. That's why I love Ypsilanti. The love. You could just feel the vibe in the whole space. You know, I was supposed to be there the week before.
Right.
But the rain canceled it. You know, the flooding and the rain canceled that. And so I came the next week, and I'm just so happy I was there because there was just so much positivity and love. And so, you know, Ypsilanti, it just has a vibe, you know.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
it does. And me being a proud native Ypsilantian, I get to experience and feel that vibe every single day. You know, we're a very small, close-knit community.
I got to shout out Gail.
You know what?
Gail is that's my girl. Listen, look, if Gail is watching, Gail Summerhill, if she's watching, she is, you know, to me,
she get on my nerves.
She's one of the
I said it.
first Ypsilanti people that I ever really connected with, and she and I have been connecting, and you know, and what I love about her is that she speaks her truth,
yes,
and
she does.
She wants the people represented, and I think that's why she supports my campaign so much.
Yes.
Because she knows our campaign is about the people.
Exactly.
And so that's why I respect her so much, and she's been doing this work, and she's been doing it here in the community, and so she loves this community,
yes,
no
she
question.
Does.
So
yeah.
She's like, Hill, you got to come back, get to Ypsi, come to Ypsi, stay in Ypsi, move to Ypsi, be Ypsi, and so I'm like, come on, let's go Ypsi.
And that's her. You know what I'm saying? When I say she get on my nerves, the reason why I say she get on my nerves because just what you say, she's not demanding, but she demands excellence.
Yes,
she demands accountability. And she demands that our elected officials represent us and do what we elected them to do.
Exactly.
And so what she does, she's kind of, we form an organization that's called Ypsi Cannot Share. You see the board on the back right there.
Ypsi Cannot Share.
Yeah.
She wears the T-shirt all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I was one of the founding members with it.
Okay.
And it was I who actually came up with the name. But anyway,
nice.
Okay, right. So Ypsi Cannot Share.
You're like a branding genius. Can you give my campaign a few new taglines? You know,
I can hook you up.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We need some.
Yeah, right. So that's how I came with Ypsi Cannot Share, and also Ear to the Ground 197. But yeah, along with the League of Women Voters. So what we do is on this particular show is that we don't necessarily endorse and support candidates. Not necessarily from the Ypsi Cannot Share and League of Women Voters. However, what the League of Women Voters does for us, Brother Hill, is they do all the research on our candidates. They do all the investigation and all this, and then they share the information to me. Same way with Ypsi Cannot Share. And then what I do is I dispense this information to my viewing audience. That way they're conscious and they're aware voters, you know, on who they're voting for and what are the agenda that the candidate has, also on the issues, ballot issues and stuff like that. And so, but one thing I can say is this: the candidates and the elected officials and administrators, those that I do support, this show supports.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to give me a reason why I should support Gil Hill for the state of Michigan, so that I can use my platform, because I haven't made up my mind. Gail has told me all these great things about you, but I need to know for myself, who is Gil Hill? Excuse me,
Harper.
Gil Harper.
But you're marrying Gail and me together. Now, Gail, I don't know her relationship status, but I don't want her man to come after me, because he'd be like, oh man, what's Hill really trying to do? Is he running for office, or is he running for my girlfriend?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
let me tell you where Gil Hill came from. So me and Johnny Lawrence Jazz Concert Series, we was talking about, and we got to talking about the guy that played in the Beverly Hills Cop, who used to be a City of Detroit police officer, whose name was Gil Hill.
Oh,
so what I did was I wrote your name at the top of the paper on purpose. You know why? So I would not say Gil Hill.
Well, speaking of Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy wore that Mumford Phys Ed shirt.
Right.
And, there are big fights in Detroit about what high school is better.
Right.
What high school is it. And, I've tried as a candidate who wants to represent all of Michigan.
Yes.
I've tried to be as careful as I can to not favor any high school over another.
Right.
But I must say, I went to the Henry Ford High School all-class reunion a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I've never seen so much love in the room.
Yeah.
So Mumford has a lot to live up to. That's all I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay.
But it was big. It was Henry Ford. I got to shout them out. My girl Laura Dickerson from the UAW took me there, and she's just a phenomenal woman, one of the top leaders of all of UAW, and we have to real quickly talk about that very quickly. I was elected to the national board of my union, and I'm a huge proponent.
What union is that?
I'm in SAG-AFTRA, and we are currently on strike. It is a member union.
That's the screenwriters?
Yeah,
okay.
Screen Actors Guild and American
Guild.
Federation of Television and Radio Artists.
Okay.
SAG-AFTRA, that's what it stands for. The WGA, which is the Writers Guild, is on strike, and we are on strike as well.
Okay.
And we're member organizations or member unions underneath the AFL-CIO banner, of which UAW is as well.
And I'm IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
There you go.
Right.
And so we have to understand there are close to 150,000 UAW workers that at the end of the day, at midnight on Thursday, quite possibly will be on strike. And this is a critical moment.
Yes.
A critical moment for families. It's a critical moment for unions. It's a critical moment for labor. And the one thing I do talk about all the time is that we have to support unions. They've been getting crushed. We're down to 6% in the private sector of union membership, which is ridiculous. If you look at our communities historically, and we want to deal with the wealth gap consistently, our communities where we had higher union membership, we have a lower wealth gap.
Okay.
Unions help us create and build wealth in our community because they fight for a living wage, they fight for health care, they fight for all of these different things. We have to be voracious fighters and supporters of this potential UAW strike. And as someone who is on strike, I'll be in solidarity. I will pick up a banner. I'll get out there on the picket lines with this. And if I get elected to the U.S. Senate, if Michigan and Ypsilanti and everybody gets behind my candidacy, and I'm fortunate enough to be put in the seat at the United States Capitol in the U.S. Senate, listen to this, I will be the only union member in the United States Senate.
Okay, well,
which is a shame.
You know what? Let me put a check right here on that one. Okay.
So,
all right.
So that's
and
it's important that we talk about that because this is very imminent and it's very important to our state. We can get into
utilize my
the
platform,
bigger,
brother.
We can get into the bigger issues that you had mentioned, and to answer your question, when we talk about why someone should consider my candidacy.
Yes.
The simple fact is representation matters. And I'm not just talking about race-based representation, although that's important because the experience I've had as an African-American male growing up in this country informs the purview from which I look at issues.
Yes.
And I do believe the fact that we've had a higher percentage of U.S. presidents than U.S. senators that are African-American is atrocious.
Whoa. Say that one more time for clarity.
So we've had a higher percentage of black U.S. presidents than we have had of black U.S. senators.
That's deep right there and spooky.
It's sad.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we can peel back all sorts of things, but the real influence in this country runs through the legislative branch.
Yes.
If you want to get resources to a community, or if you want to make sure communities don't get resources, it's running through the legislative branch. The judicial branch handles adjudicating issues and deciding rights, wrongs. Is that legal? Is that part of the law? The executive branch either vetoes or accepts something, can do executive orders. So I'm not trying to discount the power of the executive branch. Very powerful. But the real centralized force of our U.S. government is our Congress and our legislative branch, which determines laws that the president either signs or vetoes, which determines laws that judicial branch either rules on as legal or not, based off what the legislation says. So there are things that we have to codify right now. And if you, and let's break it all down. If you want to see a replication of what we've been able to do so far in the Democratic Party here in the state with the triple blue leadership, I think they've done an outstanding job. They've passed they passed legislation that they got rid of right to work. So the federal version of that would mean me passing the PRO Act, which is in support of labor unions and it's their ability to organize, and it limits the ability of corporations to stop organizing and stop behavior. Also undergirding the power of the National Labor Relations Board, so there's real teeth to their penalties to protect workers again. So that's the worker piece that would be the match of what we've had happen here in Lansing around getting rid of right to work. And then let's go to voting rights. We have a great deal of voting rights here in this state. That's why there should be no excuse of people showing up, vote, and getting turnout up. But if we look at the numbers, they still aren't anywhere near where they need to be, and we can get more into that in a second. But so as a senator,
yes, sir,
I would pass and fight to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which basically restarts the Voting Rights Act of 1965, because that was gutted. It's been gutted.
Yes.
And those protections do not exist right now. Now, here in our state, we have 40 to 45 days absentee. We have 9 days early voting minimum, and we have same-day registration, and then we have an election that should have an equal distribution of polling sites and polling stations. Our Secretary of State has done a very good job. Hester Wheeler is one of her advisors, and she has done, I think, a fantastic job around voting rights. We need the same federally.
Okay.
There are too many states where our voting power and the ability, particularly marginalized communities of color, have been completely gerrymandered away. We've seen what's happened in Mississippi. We've seen what they try to do in Tennessee. We've seen what they try to do in Florida. There's so many different places where without federal voting rights protection, voices are getting stamped out, and it's anti-democratic.
Yes.
And now let's talk about housing. Let's talk about affordability of housing.
And that's very important
attainable
right here
housing.
in Ypsilanti.
It is. Okay, good.
That's what's really happening, going on in the streets right now. Even.
So without question, I'm going to fight for federal funding to keep housing affordable. Okay. The rent is just too damn high, as we say, right? And the point is that we need owners. So we're talking about, if you want to break down some elements of my campaign, we're talking about health, housing, and hope.
Okay, Triple H. We'll call it Triple H. Okay.
So, health. You need to be financially healthy, economic viability in communities. That means you need to have businesses that are owned by community members. You need to have low-interest loans for entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Funny you should mention that. One of your books is called The Health Cure.
The Wealth Cure.
The Wealth Cure.
But I say health is wealth.
I'm messing up.
I say health as well. No, I say health as well.
Right, looking at my notes and
it's
everything.
Okay.
I got one of them. Yeah.
And so, but then obviously health speaks to physical health. I'm a cancer survivor. President Obama appointed me to the President's Cancer Panel, where we made recommendations to the White House about cancer policy. This is the time when our current president was vice president and working on the cancer moonshot. And so what we were able to do was work with the vice president's office, work with the National Institute of Health, and make really strong recommendations about cancer policy. And a lot of the good things that we're seeing now, because that office was gutted with the 45th president, unfortunately, a lot of the good things we're seeing now came out of some of the recommendations that we made under President Obama. And I'm very proud of that appointment and being part of the president's cancer panel. And so health speaks to not only, because I said health is wealth as well.
Health is wealth, okay.
Speaks to economic viability in communities. It speaks to actual physical health, but it actually also speaks to mental health.
Yes.
We have a mental health crisis going on.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And 60% of young people are suffering from depression.
Yeah.
We have our largest mental health facilities in the state of Michigan and across the country are our jail system. Should not be that way. My father was a psychiatrist who worked in the jail system.
Okay.
So when he would talk to me about so many people he would work with, he said, man, these people don't deserve to be in here.
Right.
They shouldn't be here. They should be getting scaffolding and help and support in a completely different way. And then it becomes an investment. And so fundamentally, if you want to think about my campaign,
Okay.
the government should be investing in its people.
Yes.
And it's the people's money anyway.
Come on.
Right? And so, but right now we have a federal government that acts, and the people who are sitting in those seats, they act like the people work for them rather than them working for the people.
You preaching my sermon.
Okay.
Okay. You
So,
right down there, right?
let's break down
Right.
break down a couple ways they do that.
Okay.
One, did you know that congressional members can insider trade, but you can't? So what does that mean? It means when they're in these meetings and they know what's happening, when they know what legislation is coming down, they know what corporations they meet with all the time, they know what lobbies they meet with all the time, they can actually trade off that information, stocks, etc., and actually profit from that. Yet if you do that, you go to prison.
Exactly.
So how is someone that is working for you able to do something and monetize something that for you would be illegal? Number one. And then also let's ask number two, why is their health care better than yours? When they work for you, they have a better health plan.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why we need universal health care. That's why we need health care. If you get sick, you deserve to see a doctor. You have a right. You should have a right to that, and you should not have to go into personal bankruptcy. The number one cause of personal bankruptcies across this country is catastrophic medical, whether it's injury or you're getting sick.
So when a person doesn't have the ability to pay their health care and their medical bills, their hospital bills, then obviously, like you said, they starting to get into financial
hardship because they still need that.
Okay.
You still need the
And
care.
So that's the number one cause of
personal bankruptcy, filing for bankruptcy.
Right,
exactly.
okay.
And also 1/3 of all GoFundMe's are medical related. I had a woman in Grand Rapids who needed a heart transplant. She came up to me. She says, listen, I'm an independent. I vote for Republicans, but I heard you talking on something, and I had to come see you because I support you, Hill, because I know you're going to do something about what happened to me. And I said, ma'am, what happened? She said, well, I was in line for a heart transplant. I needed it, life-saving surgery. They sent me home and said I had to raise $12,000 or I couldn't have it. And I had full Medicare, Medicaid, all that. And she had to go on GoFundMe and ask friends and da-da-da. She was able to, get it together in 3 days. But she said most people can't do that. And I would have had to go to the back of the line, and I may not even be here to talk to you about it. And she said, I know you'll be somebody who won't allow that to happen to somebody in the future. And that shouldn't happen to somebody. A guy from the VA came up to me. He said he broke his arm. He was at Beaumont Hospital here, and they could do the surgery, but he called the VA, and the VA told the hospital he had to wait 3 weeks to get the surgery.
Yes. That's not uncommon at all.
And he stayed on the phone for 8 hours in excruciating pain until finally somebody relented, and they said, man, just have him take you in for surgery and get this done. And that's exactly what happened. And then he needed an air cast after the surgery, a special cast. They had one in the pharmacy, but the VA said they wouldn't pay for it. He had to wait 3 weeks for them to ship it to
So
him.
they actually got one there, but I'm not going to pay for it.
Exactly.
That's why on the movie Denzel Washington was in, John Q, he acted the way they did. Sometimes we have to go to desperate
Look
measures.
at you going to the movie references
Well,
with
brother,
somebody I did a movie with. He got game. Shout out to Denzel
I
Washington.
just
I
had
love
to
you, brother.
segue in on that.
Love you,
I do
man.
do my homework. You know, you're making this a very easy interview for me. You know, most of the time on my show, I'm doing most of the talking. You know what I'm saying? And so I had a bunch of, when people found out that you were going to come on my show, they came with a lot of questions. And some of them I discarded and some of them I did, But you've answered quite a few of them already, So I'm going to just skip down to one of the questions that somebody asked. And this, what they asked was, What made you decide to run for the constituents from Michigan or in Michigan for the United States Senate?
Okay, well,
What, yeah.
first of all, Michigan is my home,
Okay.
and I've lived here for 7 years,
Okay.
and since it is my home, this is, if I ever was going to seek elected office, this is where I would do it.
Okay.
But it's a deeper question. They're really asking fundamentally why, and I think what they're really asking is,
Right.
what do I believe is the impetus for doing this?
Yes, exactly.
And the impetus, quite simply, is people want solutions. I want solutions.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there watching, and I don't know about you, but you watch the news, you read the paper, and you got to sit back and say, why? Why isn't someone telling the truth? Why isn't someone fighting for people? We drive around our communities and we see these bombed out houses, and we see folks who can't get fresh produce for 3, 4, 5 miles, but they can get 99-cent fried food and Funyuns and Faygo if they buy it through a 3-inch thing of Plexi with their SNAP money.
At the service station.
At service station, party store, liquor store, whatever.
Right. Yep.
And so this isn't normal.
No, it's not.
And why are we acting as if it is? There's a person with 91 indictments, federal and state, and there are people on the street protesting for this individual, and people are acting and debating whether he's going to win a presidency when he shouldn't even be able to run, because if you actually read amendments from the Constitution, whether it's 14th Amendment, there's plenty of different ways.
Right.
Point being is that somebody has to step up.
Right.
And I'm gonna stop looking to my left and to my right.
As I
And
said,
look in the mirror.
That's why I said why one begins with us, begins with me.
There you go.
It starts right here.
And the thing is
Yes.
that I can't win without a coalition and collaboration and help. But it has to start with me.
Yes.
I have to step out and be courageous, and then hopefully other people can be courageous with me, because this is not going to be easy. These next 11 months are going to be the most difficult of my life, the most stressful. Every day there's a new challenge, a new problem, a new situation. But the beautiful thing is that iron sharpens iron.
Yes, it does.
By the time we get there to the end of this 11 months, we're going to know that we've gone through it.
Yes.
And we're going to deliver for people. And listen, if we don't do a good enough job raising the resources and recruiting the volunteers and creating an 83 county infrastructure to let and having all of the captains of the campaign own the campaign across the state, then we can't win. Yeah. And I'll tell you this. We're not doing this performatively. We're not doing it to say, we give it our best and we introduce some issues that need to be discussed. This is not what this campaign. We're doing this to win, and we're going to win it.
Yeah, if you're in it, win it. Win it, yeah.
Because here's the deal. We want to create real change, and we know we can't do that without the power of the seat.
Yes.
It's a 50-50 Senate. These seats are extremely powerful, extremely valuable, and we need to win it, and we will win it with folks' help.
Yeah, one of the questions I asked you when you mentioned resources brought to mind, and that was the question that was actually asked was, how much money do you have to raise for this race? That's a question that asked. Is there a dollar amount, a set dollar amount?
You know what? There's no set dollar amount.
Okay.
We know that we won't raise the most money in this campaign as far as our opponents are concerned. We're not the establishment choice.
Right.
It was recently reported that the person who is quote unquote favored has up to $30 million already committed.
Well, how does somebody get to determine that they're the favorite and we haven't even heard from you yet?
That's a great question, particularly as it pertains to an open Senate seat in a democracy.
Okay.
And the best way to answer that is, let's be very clear. There are more ways to undermine democracies than just MAGA extremists. You can undermine democracy by political parties and establishment politics from Washington, D.C., putting their thumb on a scale
Yes.
to try to tell Michiganders who they should send to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And when they start doing that, it hurts democracy.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts. People are upset. For the first time in 57 years, Michigan does not have a black Democratic representative in Congress. First time in 57 years.
And Detroit, a majority black city,
Mm-hmm.
not to have representation that's insanity. It's sick.
It is. And the fact that folks are hurt, and I hear people tell me every day, they're hurt that the establishment
Mm-hmm.
has come to them every time there's an election and says, hey, vote for our candidate, yet we don't necessarily want you to participating in choosing who that candidate is.
You know, around here in Washington County, Ypsilanti in particular, what I used to call, and I'm going to be polite, the status quo. Mm-hmm. And you just said some things, the favorite. So the outgoing senator has already chosen the person that's going to replace them, and that's circumventing and undermining democracy by saying that we're going to support this person. As this person goes out, we're going to continue on. Those type of politics used to happen all the time right here in Washington County. What I call the go along, get along game. Only thing they did was play political musical chairs. This person ran for this office and this one right here. But also they actually had an organization. They still have an organization, a machine, if you will, that they handpick who's going to be here and who's be there. Fortunately, we were able to disrupt a lot of that process the last election by allowing people and putting people on this particular platform and a couple of others who we believe in, who had, and we knew that they had the best interests at the people at hand first. And so the go along, get along game no longer, they didn't ride again. They rolled out of town, but they're mounting back up again. So I hear you when you say about undermining democracy and they already have somebody as a favorite because they're a hand-chosen person and not thinking about what the constituent thinks about and what the needs are there. We're simply going to put in this person that we want to go to continue on the business as usual.
And here's the problem with that. Mm-hmm. The problem with that fundamentally is that it leads to what we're seeing right now, which is the largest voting bloc in the entire state of Michigan are people who don't vote.
Exactly.
People check out of the
Mm-hmm.
process. But here's the key that I never realized before. The incumbents in both parties actually want that.
Right.
Because
they're
if
depending
there's
on you
low,
not to vote.
Exactly. They're depending on you not to vote because if it's low turnout,
Right.
incumbents and establishment picks win. High turnout, they turn over and
Right.
they're out.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is this, and particularly when it comes to the primary, our community, and you'll see this, is never educated and encouraged to vote in a primary. They're only told, we need you in the general.
Mm-hmm.
So in October,
Yeah.
flood of information.
Yeah.
But the primary is where you actually pick the candidate who's going to be in the general.
Mm-hmm.
So it's arguably more important than the general election.
Yes.
Because that's who's going to potentially be representing your constituency group if you deliver a victory for them. And that's why we have to do so many things. I want to pull money out of politics. We got to get rid of Citizens United. We got to end the filibuster. We have to do a number of different things that can actually bring back public trust in democracy.
Yes.
And unless we do that, we're already in and headed towards an authoritarian state.
Yes.
And
If we're not in one already.
there you go. And so we have to grab it back. And I think that this election can do that because more so than any state in the country, Michigan is a microcosm for the entire diversity of the United States.
Yes.
There's a large African-American population. There's a large Arab population. There's a large Jewish population. There's a large population of white white females. There's a large population of immigrants and Latinos are moving in and Chinese Americans. There's a whole diversity in this state. Politically, it's split. As well as in terms of representation. That's why I've been so encouraged by how many people have signed up and they've given $5, $10, because that's what we need. We need support from a grassroots perspective. And anybody who's watching or listening, we need you to take over our campaign. I want you to think of yourself as your own campaign manager of the Hill Harper for Senate campaign.
Okay.
And whatever you can do to send out the link, to get people onto the site, to get them to either sign up to volunteer, to get them to give $5, $10, no amount is too small, because we truly have to be powered by the people, because the establishment is not going to be helping us raise millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah. So how do we do that? You sounded real good to me, good brother. You know
Okay,
what I'm saying?
good. I like that.
You sounding real good to me right now. You know what I mean? I wanted you to convince me.
Yes, sir.
Convince me why I should vote for Hill Harper for United States Senate representing the great state of Michigan.
Yes.
So that if you can convince me, then I can go out into the barbershops and go on the alleyways and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And then I can
and you can become a surrogate for the campaign, because we need surrogates. Yes, yeah. So listen.
Yeah. So
let's talk about even a bigger play.
Okay.
First of all, we have to stop playing checkers and start playing chess.
Exactly.
We have to think about a bigger movement. So it's really not even just about this binary idea of one Senate seat.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the infrastructure that we're going to build statewide here. And then what we can then do. Mm-hmm. There's somebody who's listening to this or watching us right now who has the intuition they want to run for office.
Yes.
They may want to run for school board. They may want to run for city council. They may want to run for mayor. They may want to run for state rep or state senate. They may want to run for Congress. They may want to run for U.S. Senate. They may want to run for governor. They may want to run for something. Anything. Mm-hmm. You need to not be starting from scratch.
Okay.
And what we're building is for people who think like we do. In other words, you want to represent the people first.
Yes.
Not lobbyists, not big corporate interests, not special interests. You're going to represent the people first. Then we're going to offer to you our infrastructure, our data, our people. So you're not starting from the... We're going to learn a lot about people all over the state, what their interests are. Some people believe in issues around women's reproductive health and women's reproductive freedom. That's their issue. They're a single issue voter. We hopefully will know that, because we're going to have women for Harper. We're going to have all these different verticals, teachers for Harper, social workers for Harper.
Okay.
All these different verticals. And therefore, with data and knowing what people care about, we're going to be able to share that with other candidates locally here in this county, in Washington. And I got to shout out real quick, Sheriff Clayton. I know he's outgoing sheriff, but
Jerry Clayton.
I'll tell you this. Yeah. He was one of the first elected officials in the state of Michigan to endorse me.
Wow.
You talk about...
And I'm really not surprised.
You're talking about stepping out in courage and not caring what the establishment says.
That's Jerry.
He stepped out, and he stepped out in support. And I have to thank him for that. And that level of just, hey, I'm going to do what's right because it's right. I'm not going to worry about who's going to call me and say, man, what are you doing? No. He did the right thing, and I celebrate Sheriff Clayton. I celebrate Washtenaw County. And that's why I think that my base has to come out of Washtenaw, because I think that there's a lot of linkage to this sentiment, and I didn't know that you guys were able to throw out some of the establishment candidates before through your organizing.
Through our organization.
So we can just double down on that.
Yes, we did, and we threw out and put who we wanted in.
That's great.
Sheriff Clayton, good friend of mine. We just had breakfast 2 weeks ago, right?
Okay.
And personally, you know what I'm saying? And as he's a law enforcement officer, right? And it's not popular in our community that we talk to the police and all that conversation. And that's half our problem, is that we don't want to talk, we don't want to listen.
That's
and
right.
we've got to break down that nonsensical barrier of not talking to persons who are authority and the ones who make decisions around here. And so we've broken those things down in our community, where we actually talk to our elected officials, regardless of what the position is. We'll talk with Chief Kirk Moore. I don't know if you met him around here. Just hired as the new City of Ypsilanti police chief. Black man, excellent man of character. Both of these gentlemen are. So I'm not surprised at all that Sheriff Jerry Clayton was one of the first persons to endorse you. Man of high integrity and
Yes.
character. I can say that.
Yes.
From breaking bread with him on numerous occasions.
Yes.
So, but Brother Hill,
I want to answer one thing real quick. You said, how could we help?
Yeah.
Folks can go to hillharper.com.
That's what I was just getting ready to read my mind.
Hillharper.com.
That's why you the good doctor.
There you go. and that's our point of entry now, because at the end of the day, there are a number of different ways a campaign needs to be supported, but the lifeblood of the campaign is funding, and we are going to be funded by the people. So if folks can go there, no amount is too small. $5, and this is what we're asking people to do: give $5, $10, $25, whatever they can do, and then go down their phone, copy that link, and reach out to people in their phone and say, "Hey, I'm supporting this brother Hill Harper. He needs our help." And hit 50, 100 people that are just text them. We're finding that the success through texting has been much more successful than you just making a post on your
Facebook
social
page.
Exactly. And so that direct connection, that's why I'm saying we want people to step up and own our campaign.
Right.
We need individuals to own it, because we have to be owned by the people, because that's who we're going to represent. And the only way we get there is by people saying, you know what, I don't need to wait for someone to give me permission to go out and solicit for Hill. I know I have permission because I'm a captain for him here in Ypsi.
Yes. One of the books also you wrote, Letters to an Incarcerated Brother.
Yes.
I've got to change my hats right here when I speak on my particular organization. I'm a member of an organization. I'm just going to say where we deal with community violence interruption. However, my organization does not support or represent any political entity or candidate. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. It's because we are a nonprofit. And I don't want anybody getting out here saying that this, because people love to do that kind of stuff. You get what I mean? Saying that this nonprofit. We do not. I do not. As an individual and as an officer of that organization. People know what organization I'm talking about. Okay. We have a lot of returning citizens in Ypsilanti. And our primary objective is my organization, I'm calling the name of Supreme Felons Incorporated, is to assist those returning citizens getting acclimated back into free society, right? By getting them jobs, getting them housing, getting clothing, getting health care, reacclimating it back into their communities, and even building back up with their families that they may have had long-term broken relationships. Also, we try to get them assistance in mental and health care, because we know that a lot of our men who were incarcerated didn't receive the proper treatment that they should have while incarcerated and what have you. So that's what our organization tries to do, is helps those have been disenfranchised, whether been for 50 years or just 5 or 6 months or a week, get them reintroduced into society and try to help them traverse getting back into to the community, back into the business environment, back into the government sector, or whatever aspects that encapsulate involving being a free citizen again. Okay, so your book, I didn't have the opportunity to read that particular book, Letters to an Incarcerated Brother, but if you had an opportunity to talk to our brothers out here in Ypsilanti, right? Those brothers who have been affected by incarceration, whether it be in a federal institution, a state institution, or just a city jail and or county jail, right? If you had to share with something to give them a word of hope and inspiration, what would you share from them? Not necessarily from the book, but what would you share?
Well, let me first say, I wrote that book to try to deal with our mass incarceration crisis, and certainly post-slavery mass incarceration is one of America's great shames. We are 5% of the world's population, but hold 25% of the world's inmates. We have ruined communities through over-incarceration.
Yes.
We have ruined families, and we've ruined individuals' lives. The way we can deal with the mass incarceration crisis is to stop recidivism, to your point. And so that book was all about that. How do we stop people from going back? Because most people are locked up. They get out between 2 to 6 years, but they go back.
Yes.
And so there are so many things we can do. But the individual has to know that they matter and they're valuable. And they have to believe how important they are. And we, from the government perspective, have to give safety net resources to help them become productive citizens of society. Again, it goes back to the point I was making before. Every dollar spent through the government should feel like it's investment in people. Because you know what? When you invest in people, it pays off.
Yes, it does.
When we invest in early childhood education, it pays you back eightfold because you're not locking somebody else later. It costs more to lock somebody up in Michigan than it costs to send them to Michigan State.
Yeah.
That's a better investment.
Yes.
That's why we need education reform. And so when we think about the incarceration crisis, all of these things are linked. We need to create economic foundations in communities and create jobs so that there are alternatives to so-called illegal activity. A great example of that is 80+% of the activity that gets young brothers locked up is a money-related activity.
Okay. Break that down.
Break that down real quick. They're either selling something that is so-called illegal to get money, or they're taking somebody else's stuff to resell it to get money. So it doesn't take a genius to know that if we solve the money and opportunity problem, you actually solve that problem.
Okay.
Same thing with recidivism. When folks don't have opportunities to clean their record, expungements, commutations, they don't have the ability, and this thing is trailing them and following them and costing them more, there's a higher likelihood they end up back where they were before, doing things with folks that had them in the situation in the first place. If you give them opportunity, you give them the ability to walk away, they've already served their debt.
Right.
With my coffee shop in Detroit, I don't need to ask you if you've been in the system unless I'm just asking for a positive, because the one thing I have learned is that brothers coming out of the system are sometimes the best workers,
Would you
the
say
best
that?
employees.
Man, when you
so
say
maybe
that,
you say,
yep.
maybe you ask it because you actually are looking for cats to come out because they got discipline.
Yep.
They understand how things work. Things happen on time. They have to get the work done.
Yep.
They have a high work ethic. These are the types of things we want. But if we saddle people, so for instance, for me as a U.S. Senator, I would fight to have a pathway for federal expungements. Right now, there is no real pathway for federal expungements of federal charges. You have to go before the President of the United States and get a signed commutation or an expungement. That's ridiculous, right?
Right.
Understanding how there have been laying on of charges by prosecutors to trap people into pleas and all these different things that have happened over the years around incarceration, you should be able to get an expungement. If you serve your time, and in many cases you've served significantly more time than you should have,
yes, you
should be able to clean your record, move on with your life, and live out a productive life. We have to fight. And then watch this. Less than 0.5% of returning citizens vote. Less than 0.5% of folks who are in jail awaiting trial vote. Most people don't even know that.
Yes.
If you're in jail awaiting trial, you can vote in the state of Michigan.
In the state of Michigan, yes.
But almost zero do.
Yeah. I got him, one of my good, matter of fact, you just met him. You met him, came in here when you went out. Billy Cole served 44 years in prison. The brother that you was talking about there, right? And one of the first things that he did was, and he couldn't wait to vote. He just got off parole. He served four years of parole, and he's voted in every election since he's been home. But one of the first thing he did was, and he couldn't wait to cast his ballot. You're talking about.
I need him part of my vertical returning citizens for Harper. Some people don't like the term returning citizens, so we're trying to dial in what term it should be. You know, people, everyone's got different opinions about what the term should be for that vertical. But basically, we all understand as folks that are helping us develop policy and working with us around how to best serve folks who have served.
And that's what you're reading our motto, or quoting our motto, what we are as an organization. You know, you said something was so very true, and we're going to go to the next question. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm going to respect your time.
Okay.
Really, because I know you're busy, man. You got things to do. But you said something that some of the best workers and employees, some of the best people come home from the penitentiary because of they go through a structure and they go through a regimen and understanding. The word penitentiary comes from the word penitence, and that's to think how you got to where you're at. So the penitentiary is a necessary place for some people to get back on track. So when people return home as returning citizens, often they're better persons than when they came in, and sometimes they're better than some persons who have never been into that system, what have you. So it
but
has
let me
its
say
place.
one thing real quick, because my father worked in the system. He did mental health work. Part of it is just maturing.
That's what I'm getting
And so the idea of folks having to sit in a prison to mature when we have undereducated them and we have not actually created an ecosystem or an economy or a community that allows for them to mature safely in a way that they can confidently mature like other more prosperous communities.
Yes.
Okay. So you know, when people sort of try to say, well, see, it's the prison that actually helped this person get on the right side. No, it's the fact that they were making up for lost time because you've taken so much money out of public education. You've taken so much money out of the community. There are no jobs. You know, if there are no businesses in the community that you can get your job at a 13-year-old and just learn what it's like to work, and you kind of mature because you're working for Uncle Thomas who owns the store, the store doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
And so you can't do that. So you end up working for Rollo on the corner.
Right.
Because that's the economy that exists. And all of a sudden, that creates a waterfall of negative circumstances. And so if there's one theme that I feel like we've touched on in this, because we've taken our time to talk through things, is that all of these things are linked. Public education and taking that out. Lack of businesses and entrepreneurship in our community. Lack of affordable, attainable, safe housing. Lack of good water and healthy foods. And then you add on to that the idea of rising costs of everything else, rising costs of healthcare, rising costs of food, rising costs of rent, all of this. So you have debt on the one side, you have payday lenders and all sorts of predatory elements, and then you have just, like you said, liquor stores on the corner where that's all you have access to. It creates an ecosystem of dysfunction and problems that mount on each other. The federal government's job, my job as a senator, is to help provide solutions for those folks. Just like it's my job to help provide solutions for the small farmer here in Michigan who can't compete with Big Ag because he has to pay 10x for the fertilizer. And they're allowed to pollute using all sorts of pollutants to hyper grow crops when he doesn't have that technology, and he doesn't even have a right to repair his tractor equipment. As a federal senator, I want to introduce right to repair. You know, had to spend his whole life's mortgage on a big old John Deere thing. It doesn't work. He could tinker and try to figure out how to make it work, but if he touches that thing, his whole warranty goes out.
Correct.
And then he's got to ship it 4 hours away. Can't afford to do that. That's thousands of dollars. And then the small guy, the small girl, the small woman, the small man, we're getting stepped on. And people are acting like it's normal. And I want to be a federal representative that says that's not normal. We're not going to let you step on the small person anymore. We're going to be the voice for that person. And whether it's a farmer, whether it's a single mom in Ipsy, whether it's someone who has a small store over in Benton Harbor, or they're building some type of nonprofit up in Traverse City, or they're up in Sault Ste. Marie and they got a fishing operation. Whatever it is, that's who we're going to fight for, because we know you don't have a lobbyist in Washington. We know you aren't getting the fancy lunches with the congressional members in Washington. We know you're not at those parties. But with me, you are.
All right. So you're listening to Ear to the Ground 197 with my special guest on this special day. I'm going to call it, because sometimes we have to speak things into existence, the next senator for the great state of Michigan, Hill Harper.
Yes, yes.
And I want to thank you for coming on our
so
show
much.
today. Before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with? But also, again, how does persons contact Hill Harper to support his candidacy? How do we do that? And then if you take us out with the final words.
Yeah.
Let me say this. Most of the time I'm on the show, I do all the talking. I do all the time. I didn't have to say nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and
I'm going to ask you to say something.
Okay, right.
I'm going to ask you to repeat after me in a second. This is how we're going to close out the show.
Okay,
I want you to repeat after me.
Okay, all right.
First of all, before we close it out, I just want folks, please go to hillharper.com. Please sign up to volunteer. Please take the link and share it with at least 50 to 100 people in your phone. You don't have to even figure out who to start at A. All you got to do. Take the who is should it be. Don't let analysis paralysis just stop you. This is something you could do in an hour. Copy paste a message, and then follow up with them. That would be huge for us, because we need as many donors as possible. This is a people powered campaign, hillharper.com. But I'll close out with an affirmation, and I'd love for you to repeat it with me.
Okay.
Because what I found, and I do these with my son, found affirmations. We have to do these because the work, when you're fighting a fight, you have to undergird it yourself, because there's going to be times when you're going to doubt it. You're going to feel like you can't do it, and you're going to feel like it's too hard, and you're going to ask yourself, like, should I just throw in the towel? We can't. We can't quit. We have to keep pushing. So I do this affirmation, and say it with me. I will not allow fear to stop me
from
making the choices and taking the actions that I already know I should take. Instead, I will act with my heart. With my courage. With my love and empathy. And I will win. At all I do. And in so doing. Give others permission. To win as well. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Last time I did one of those, I ended up married. So, Hill Harper of the United States. One more thing we got to do. We got to announce the winner of the Battle of the Sexes.
Yeah, everybody's been hanging on for that announcement,
right.
So we got to do it.
So,
Daryl Beebe, Dwayne Parham, Don White, and Yancey.
Yeah. So tied for third place.
Okay.
With 7 point.
No, it doesn't matter the percentage. They're just tied for third.
I didn't want to say they only got 3 votes, brother.
They're just tied for third.
Yeah, tied. Okay, we go like the tie for third. And the winner by 1 vote, Lord Yancey. Yancey won.
Yancey by one vote. That's incredible.
And so that's the Johnny Lawrence Jazz Concert Series
Congratulations,
of 2023.
Yancey.
Yeah.
Congrats to everybody. Listen, if you're an artist and you played in the Jazz Series, you're a hero.
Yes,
we appreciate you. I love all artists. The fact that we've taken arts funding out of our schools is ridiculous. We got to get that back in there.
Yes, we do.
It's life-saving. It's great for mental health. It's so many different things. And so we know that. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being a voice of the people. Thank you for having your ear to the ground.
Yes.
And listen, we're all in this together, y'all. So let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to return anytime you like.
Okay.
But also, your campaign manager sitting right there. I would like for you to know that anytime that you would like to share some information to my viewing audience, this platform is open to you.
I would love for Rona, our campaign manager, to come on the show sometime.
She is welcome.
That would be great.
And you're more than welcome, like I said, anytime. And I'm sure that Gail, who I don't. Who let her in? I don't know how Gail Summer here.
Gail's here? Oh,
Gail's
my
here.
goodness.
Yeah, she's here. I don't know how she got here. I said, how'd you
All
get in
right.
here? I had the door locked and everything. So anyway, but anyway, to share some information. So I was looking for a reason to support you, not a reason not to support you. And so I'm not the type of person who, just because they say vote for this person, I'm going to vote for this person. Yeah, this all looks good, whoopie whoop whoop. But I must have to tell you, you sat right here and you convinced me. So from this point forward, you have my support and my endorsement. Good
Thank
brother.
you so much. I appreciate
and
that.
This wasn't script. There she is right
And
there.
that's listen, every endorsement, I say, this campaign is endorsed by the people. Every endorsement matters because reporters try to ask you, well, what high note the person? No. Everyone has a vote.
Yes.
Whether you're a state rep, state senator, congressperson, president of the United States, you get one vote.
Yes.
So that endorsement from you is as powerful to me as any endorsement from any person.
Thank you.
And so I thank you for that.
And you're welcome. Yancey won the Battle of the Sexes by one
vote.
So your vote counts.
Your vote matters.
Ear to the Ground 197. And we want to thank you again, Hill Harper, for coming on Ear to the Ground 197. As always, my motto is all power to the people.
Got to give the people the power. You got to give the people the power. More power to the people. You got to give the people the power. 197. Yeah, ground. Got to give the people the power. You got to give the people the power. More power to the people. You got to give the people the power. 197. Yeah,
Power to the people. Give more power to the people. More power to the people. Give more power to the people.
got to give the people the power. You got to give the people the power. More power to the people. You got to give the people the power. 197. Yeah, ground. Got to give the people the power. You got